Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Investor More, and some of you may recognize this property. Some may have seen it before and not recognize it because it looks so different now. This is the old restaurant I've owned for a long time, and you can see we stuccoed the outside of it. It looks so much better. So we'll show you the inside, which has some new issues that we did not have before. We'll talk about that and talk about the plans for this property as well. Of course, I love the likes, shares, comments, all that, and see new subscribers. And yeah, I bought this a long time ago before these apartments were built there, and the apartments were built there. And this property's had its fair share of issues, but we're getting very close to being maybe done with it. We'll see what we do. But you can see here, the floor was real ugly, and they aren't quite done with the stucco yet. There's still some finishing touches that need to be made, and yes, that's where the gas meter is. Not ideal, but that's how it's set up. And along here, again, kind of a weird setup with the ground way up high along the side of the building. And that's an issue we'll talk about inside that we'll see here in a second. And then yeah, this property also has had a lot of different issues with people breaking into it. And luckily, I think we finally have it secured correctly, so that won't happen anymore. But in the past, we had multiple break-ins and nothing really stolen. Well, I think a toilet was stolen, but we've got that secured properly. Oh, I don't know if that was new or old. Someone broke the door handle off trying to get in again. This was a major issue right here, getting that done, so we'll talk about that too. All right, so right here, it's never good to have dirt up against your building. That's part of the issue, but this used to be a shed right here, and we took that out because people were sleeping in there. This is where they held their trash, like the actual trash can for pickup. And the lot line literally angles across here. It is basically as big as the building, just a tiny bit bigger. So it doesn't have much land. A lot of people said we should tear it down and then rebuild something, but we can't build anything any bigger because this is literally as big as the lot is. And yeah, we have some roof issues there. You can see it messed up the stucco a little bit, so that will need to be fixed. And then the electric is almost finally done. This was an ongoing issue for months and months and months, and we've had issues with the electric on a lot of properties. Part of that's getting the electric company, Excel, which has given us issues on other properties too, to come do their work. Takes them just months. And then electricians have just been real hard to find as well. So this, I think, is finally done. Had to come back, the electrician had to come back about 4 or 5 times to get it done right per the city inspector. And then Excel would come back and say, no, they don't want it done that way. Change it. So it was like a 3-way party or fight of trying to figure out how to get this done right, but that's finally done. But then we'll show you one of the other issues. There are a couple issues we have inside before we really figure out what to do with this property. And the reason I bought this property to start with wasn't because I had any great plans or ideas or anything like that. It was because it was really, really, really cheap. So that's not always the best reason to buy properties. I think I paid $105,000 for it, and it was a working restaurant when I bought it. Had all kinds of restaurant equipment, which we still have in one of my other buildings, the basement there. But we tried to rent it a long time to restaurants and just had issue after issue after issue with the city. Because the lot's so small, you can't really put a grease trap outside, so it had to be a real small grease trap inside. And there wasn't that much room for seating, and you needed public bathrooms if you had seatings. There's not really room to put in public bathrooms, at least when I first bought it. So just a whole lot of issues that came up. And even though people wanted to rent it, the city would not allow them to have their particular restaurant in here just because they couldn't meet code and all those different issues. So we decided to stop that route and then fix it up a little, expand it, take out the restaurant, and maybe either sell or rent it as a retail space. And this is kind of where the homeless people were hanging out. And we had contractors working on it to do that. And then In the middle of that, they got stopped by the city for not pulling permits, and we kind of had some arguments about that because we were in disagreement about whether we should pull permits or not. And especially being on this busy road, I thought we should, they thought we shouldn't. And then we ended up firing that contractor for that reason, and another reason on another house that had a lot of issues where they went way over budget. It wasn't working out. So we stopped work then until we had another contractor to come back and work on some stuff, get the electrical work done, and then we finally got the stucco done outside too. So it's been a long path, and we're getting closer. I think my plan is probably just to sell it once we get it fixed up a little bit more. We might paint the inside, kind of fix this floor a little bit more inside here, get the stucco done, and then I think we're gonna need a new roof too, because as you can see, it's been leaking. And not that their sheetrock drywall job was the best in the world, but when water leaks onto it, that makes it even worse. And we had this roof checked out when I first bought the property, and they said it was old, but in decent shape. They didn't see any problems, and we didn't have any problems for a long time, but obviously we do now. And I think we had a roofer look at it when I first bought it, who we don't use anymore again. And the new roofer came over, they've been working with us for a couple years now, and said, nope, your roof is pretty shot, it needs a new one. So we're waiting for that bid. I'm actually getting a different bid from a different roofer too. That's one trade where you can shop around quite a bit, and you almost have to shop around every couple of years. I feel like we find really good kind of newer roofers who are very affordable, fast, and then people figure out they're affordable and fast, and they get really busy, and then they're able to raise their prices and aren't as affordable or as fast. And that's how business works. I have nothing against them for doing that. I would do the same thing. But for us, when that happens, then we kind of go look for a newer roofer who's more affordable and fast again, and repeat that cycle over and over again. But it literally can save us, thousands and thousands of dollars on each job if we can find affordable roofers who aren't as busy as some of the established, longer in business roofers. The other issue we have in here, we mentioned how cold it was a couple weeks ago, and we did not have heat in here because we didn't have the electrical done yet. Have a furnace, it works. We had heat before, but while they're doing all the electrical work, we did not have heat, and we were really hoping to get it done, over the summer, and that obviously did not happen. And so the water's off. We had all the water turned off and everything, but that is water right there because the meter in the main is leaking. So one of those is bad or froze or it's just leaking. The main shut off to the building, but that comes after the meter. So hopefully that's nothing too serious, but another issue we have on this property we'll need to fix before we put it up for sale and go down that path. So not one of my best properties I ever bought. Like I said, it's better to have a plan when you buy a property and not just buy it because it's cheap. I've done that with a few different properties, and sometimes it works out okay, but a few different times you end up just sitting on them, and we have other priorities. And that's one thing too, they're cheap, so it costs me the least amount of money to hold them because they have the lowest taxes, the lowest insurance, the lowest holding costs, and if we finance them, the lowest financing costs. So I often give those cheap properties the lowest priority level, which means they sit even longer, and then being cheap isn't always a good thing. So again, here you can see we've got some issues there, but we need to figure out where that water's coming in, if that's the roof or if that's another issue because the ground is built up so high on that side. So we'll have to get that fixed and figured out what's going on there as well. So making progress, but a few setbacks on this one. And like I said, we paid almost nothing for the property compared to what stuff is worth now. So even with all this time, I might not make much, but it's not like I'm gonna be losing a whole ton of money either. And we might actually make some money still on it too, depending on what it sells for. I imagine, boy, it would be in the $250,000 range for value. It's just hard to say, but really good location for traffic, that's for sure. And this place was a Cisneros, is what it was before, a local burrito place. And the first year I owned this property, people were still coming in here trying to buy burritos after it closed. So people really do like the area, tons of foot traffic, some good, some bad foot traffic, but yeah, that's the property. All right, so we'll have more updates on this one too, if it sells, and probably walk through it again after it's all the way done and we get these other issues taken care of and fixed, and we'll see how it looks then, but it looks so different than it did before, and a lot more usable now than it was before too, since it was all set up as a restaurant, and it's really, really, really hard to use this space as a restaurant, how it's configured with the bathroom situations, and with the parking situation too. Not much parking here at all. All right, thanks for watching. Love the likes, love the shares, love the comments. Keep those coming. We'll be back with more updates here coming soon.